Now, I'm not going to say I know precisely what entities are, or what demons are, or what apparitions, whatever you want to call them, are precisely, because it seems to be very much a culturally expressed thing, and it also seems to be a personal, individual thing as well. Now, like in Ireland, a banshee would appear to someone here, a dybbuk would apparently manifest to a Jewish person, and so around the world, a penagagalan in Indonesia. The invocation and summoning of demons and entities also seems to be very personal. People always get what they want. Entities, whatever they are, whether they're produced by the human brain, I think to an extent they are. It could be kind of a daemon type thing. That's not to say they're not out there, but people get what they expect. Like you had people who see grey aliens. The grey alien is just the modern American version of a leprechaun or something like that. You come back in 500 years and something else will appear to the same people. It always changes through time. Now, there are interesting correlations and telltale experiences and phenomena surrounding appearance of these entities, which suggest you can actually tell, shall we say, real ones from hallucinations and so on. A common one, and I've experienced this myself, is is a strange mechanical or buzzing noise. This has been long reported that before, like, a demon appears, a demon that's been summoned through the Goetia, or some kind of demon that's been manufactured through a ritual, and also it's been reported in many alien things as well, and as well as leprechauns and fairies in Ireland, is a constant seems to be this mechanical buzzing, electronic distorted sound that manifests along when they manifest at the same time. It's a really cool one, actually, when you think about it. It may actually be indicative of the Matrix actually being ripped to bits or something like that, and I find that really interesting. The idea that reality is crumbling, and like a radio signal or a frequency, it's falling asunder. Really, really interesting stuff. And perhaps it's a portal opening in that sense. Now, just because the entity comes through looking like a grey alien, looking like a leprechaun, or in Grant Morrison's case, looking like John Lennon, doesn't actually mean it's an alien leprechaun or John Lennon. It's the image that we place upon them with our minds. The force could have no shape, it could have no form, but our minds would be blown if we saw it as it really was. So we impose a kind of a cultural, personal, psychological overlay upon it. It's sort of like we get what we expect, we get what we want, and that way it's easier for our brains and our minds to process the experience. It may even be a completely natural thing. It could be a completely natural thing that's a compensatory mechanism created by the brain so you understand it. So you're traveling across America in the rural regions and you see a light in the sky, and the next thing you're lying on a table surrounded by grey aliens. 100 years ago you're traveling through a bog in rural Ireland, you have the same kind of experience, and you're surrounded by little people, fairies or whatever, and it goes on the same all over the world. I found it very interesting that in a lot of UFO books about UFO abduction stories in the 1960s, when the sexual revolution was taking off, lots of people reported having sex with beautiful women on their, beautiful alien women on their abduction experiences. And that was, again, the cultural, social, overlay that was placed upon these very strange experiences. The black-eyed children is another strange one as well. It may, I've heard stories that both they and the shadow people are abortion guilt phenomena, that they're somehow kind of manifested in some way. There's the one that does me more than anything else, and I can tell you right now, I was going to tell you the most terrifying thing that I experienced as a child, and you will laugh at this because it is absurd in so many ways. It was the Virgin Mary. Now, there was a film made in the 1940s, a Hollywood film. It was about the Song of Bernadette. It was about Saint Bernadette in Lourdes in France, and the Virgin Mary appeared in front of her, blah blah, so it goes. But like Fatima, we probably find out that was a completely different than the way the church redrafted or re-edited the experience. For instance, in Fatima, it was like a meter high kind of fairy type thing that appeared. The church, it was the Catholic Church who made up the story. It was the Virgin Mary. So something probably similar happened in Lourdes. The same kind of entity experience happened, and suddenly it became the Virgin Mary. Now, I don't know whether this was like some kind of instinctual thing within inside me growing up as a child, but I watched that film, and the parts of that film, even to this day, where the Virgin Mary appears, absolutely terrify me. Now, it's just a woman in a kind of a bathing light. Go and look on YouTube after this is finished and have a look for yourself. It terrifies me. There's something about the Virgin Mary that terrifies me. I don't know what it is, and it's so primal and so instinctual to me that in some levels I believe that this is somehow a kind of a memory of something I've experienced either in a past life or some other kind of way involving this entity. Now, I used to be. This is why do you hear absurd this is? I grew up in Ireland at a time when the country was quite Catholic. And I wasn't raised Catholic, but I wasn't overtly in a very religious Catholic family or anything like that. But I did my first Holy Communion and confirmation and all that nonsense. And I used to pray at night after I saw that film, the Song of Bernadette, that the Virgin Mary would not appear in my bedroom. I didn't, this is a weird thing because I grew up in a society where it was seen that the Virgin Mary appeared before you, you were blessed. But there was something about me made me realise it was terrifying. And if you look at the experiences around what happened to children like Saint Bernadette and the children of Fatima who saw the Virgin, their fates were often terrible. They died young, or they were locked away in convents. They got horrific diseases, and they died at an early age, even though they were basically taken well care of. There's something quite frightening about that. I didn't know about that as a child. I'm talking about I was quite young. I'm talking about I was 8 or 9 or maybe younger. So anyway, here was an experience, a paranormal experience that happened to me regarding the Virgin Mary. I was in a state of extreme terror one night in my bedroom, and again it was just like an anxiety attack, a fear of a ghost, a fear of a monster. It used to happen to me now and again, and the thing was, I was terrified that if I looked at the end of my room, now you know me, it was a story that when I looked at the end of my room when I was much older as a teenager, I saw that famous black monkey thing. It's on the Demons documentary if you check it out on this channel. But this time I heard the buzzing sound. I heard the mechanical kind of like electronic mechanical sound happening, and the wardrobe in my bedroom, which wasn't that full of clothes, it was mostly full of a few things. It was a small single wardrobe. It started to shake violently, and it lifted up in the air and landed on top of me. Now it wasn't super heavy. It was like a thin plywood type thing, so it wasn't a big heavy wardrobe, but it shook violently, lifted by itself and landed on top of me. And that was directly connected to a terror regarding an apparition of the Virgin Mary. This is what I believe what Carl Jung talks about as catalytic exteriorization phenomena, where you have a tremendous amount of psychic energy that's built up through terror, to trauma, and it can actually cause violent rapping, as it did with him and Carl Jung, move things, shake things, glasses explode, these kinds of things, light bulbs often explode, tables crack in half. If someone's extremely intense, if you have any experience about this, can you post it down the bottom? I'd really like to hear it. But yeah, that was my experience. The Virgin Mary for me is kind of like a demon. I know that sounds really weird to people, and very blasphemous to Catholics. But if I was to start to get involved seriously in demonology and summoning demons, on a regular basis or in any kind of intense way, I would probably get the classic Virgin Mary type thing appearing before me, because I've come to see that as the kind of awesome power of the psyche, and the awesome power of an entity terrifying me. It goes very deep inside my primal being. So that was it. The Virgin Mary is probably rooted in some kind of early Irish, Gaelic, Celtic terror being, like a kind of a banshee, which explains why her statues all over Ireland, in rural areas in particular, and you have these grottos all over many Catholic countries. I'm always amazed how people look at these images of the Virgin Mary and talk about how comforting it feels. I think they actually feel utterly terrifying. But check out that film, The Song of Bernadette. It will blow your mind.